Jonki always felt that the city changes after night. During the day, the city used to be filled with noise, people, cars, sounds, everything together gave a false sense of safety. But at night, especially after midnight, the city showed its real face. Everything felt silent, every corner clearer, more truthful. She was standing alone at the bus stop. Cold air was hitting her face, and an old streetlight above her head was flickering as if it itself was trying to stay awake. The ground was cold, and fog was slowly spreading across the road, as if it was some living thing that had come out with the night. Jonki looked at her phone. 11:46 p.m. The last bus. Her hands trembled slightly. She locked the phone and put it inside her bag and tightly held the bag strap. She was tired, long duty, late hours, and then this waiting. The bus stop was completely empty. No other passenger, no car. The shutters of nearby shops were closed, as if the city had closed its eyes. Somewhere far away a dog barked, then everything became silent again. Just today, Jonki softly said to herself. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. "Don't take the last bus. If you get late, call someone."
Just today.
She shook her head. The fog was getting thicker. The streetlight's glow was now making only a small circle. Everything else had dissolved outside it. Then she felt it. The ground trembled slightly. At first she thought it was just her imagination, but then the vibration became stronger, a deep, heavy sound coming from far away. Engine. Jonki looked toward the road. From inside the fog, two faint lights began to appear, the bus's headlights. They were slowly coming closer, like tired eyes that were barely open. The bus looked old. Its paint was dull, peeled off in places. One headlight was flickering. Again and again. The route board on top was glitching. Sometimes strange symbols, sometimes completely blank. The bus stopped in front of Jonki. The sound of brakes tore through the silence. For a few moments, nothing happened. Then the bus doors opened. An old metallic screech echoed through the stillness of the night. Jonki froze. She didn't understand why, but her feet were not moving forward. Somewhere inside her chest, a strange bell was ringing. The cold wind made the decision. She went inside the bus. The air inside was heavy, old metal, the smell of closed rooms, and something that clearly felt wrong. The lights were dim and uneven, flickering in some places. There were people inside the bus. Seeing this, Jonki felt a little surprised. Those people were sitting on different seats, all looking straight ahead. No one was talking. No one was moving. Jonki looked toward the driver. He was wearing a dark uniform, and his cap was pulled so low that his face was not clearly visible. His hands were fixed on the steering wheel, as if he never wanted to let go. "Ticket?" Jonki said in a soft voice. The driver gave no reaction. At the same moment, the bus doors closed. The bus started moving. Jonki felt slightly nervous, but then she controlled herself. She went and sat on a middle seat near the window. She placed her bag on her lap and started looking outside through the glass. The city was slowly being left behind. Inside the bus there was not a single sound. No phone sounds, no conversation, no laughter. Only the faint humming of the engine. For the first time, Jonki felt that this journey was not going to be normal. The bus was leaving the city, but Jonki did not realize it immediately. At first, everything seemed normal. closed shops, silent roads, and streetlights stretching far apart. But then she noticed that the bus had been driving for too long, as if it were waiting for something. Jonki took out her phone again. The signal was gone. She looked outside the window. The fog had become even thicker. The darkness between the streetlights was growing longer. It felt as if even the light was afraid to come on this path. The bus slowly stopped. First stop. Jonki sat upright and looked. The bus stop board was old, half tilted, and the name written on it had faded. She had never heard the name of that place before. The doors opened. Cold air came inside. No one got off. The doors closed. The bus started moving again. Jonki's brows furrowed. It was strange, but still she convinced herself that such things happen at night. The second stop was not very far. This time the same thing happened. The bus stopped. Doors opened. Silence. Then closed. Jonki shifted restlessly on her seat. Her eyes went again toward the passengers. The man in the dark coat was still sitting completely straight. His shoulders were not moving at all, as if he was breathing very carefully. Or maybe not breathing at all. The woman sitting at the back was holding her handbag even tighter. Her hair was completely covering her face. Jonki noticed that the woman's hands looked slightly bluish. The teenage boy was looking out the window, but outside there was only fog. His eyes were open, but there was no reaction in them. Jonki's heartbeat sped up. These people were not normal. The bus stopped for the third time. This time Jonki carefully looked outside. There were trees on both sides of the road. The city had completely disappeared. No building, no sign, no house was visible. "This is not my route," Jonki softly said. She left her seat and started walking forward. Walking inside the bus felt difficult, as if the air had become thick. "Excuse me," she said to the driver. "You are going on the wrong road." The driver did not reply. "Sir?" Jonki raised her voice slightly. This time the driver turned his head just enough that his face became slightly visible. Jonki's body went numb. The driver's eyes were wide open. Too wide. There was no shine in them. No anger, no tiredness, no awareness. Only emptiness. "I need to get off here," Jonki said in a trembling voice. "Please stop the bus." The driver looked forward again. The bus did not stop. Jonki stepped back, as if she had touched something hot. She went back and sat on her seat, but now her hands were trembling. She looked at the passengers again, and this time her eyes caught details. The man in the dark coat's skin looked grey, as if blood had stopped reaching it. His eyes were not blinking. The teenage boy's reflection in the window did not match him. The reflection was still looking straight when the boy slightly turned his head. And the woman at the back, her chest was not moving at all. Jonki's throat dried up. "These people are not alive," her mind softly said. The bus suddenly stopped. The doors opened. This time the man in the dark coat stood up. His movement was slow and stiff, as if his joints were not working properly. He moved forward in the aisle, and with every step a faint sound came, like bone rubbing against bone. Jonki pressed herself into her seat. The man stepped out of the doors. The very next moment, his body fell to the ground, straight, lifeless. Jonki's scream echoed inside the bus. The doors closed. The bus started moving again. And Jonki understood that this journey was not going only toward home. Jonki's scream echoed inside the bus and slowly faded, but her heartbeat was still pounding in her ears. Her hands were soaked with sweat, and her fingers were gripping the edge of the seat so tightly that she could feel pain. The bus kept moving. Outside, the fog was becoming thicker. The shapes of trees were no longer clearly visible, only black shadows moving along with the bus. Jonki covered her face with her hands. "This cannot be real," she softly said. "This is just a bad dream." But the sound of the engine, the jerks of the bus, and the cold air reminded her that all of this was reality. The bus slowed again. Next stop. This time the woman sitting at the back stood up. She was still holding the handbag close to her chest, as if it were the last thing she could not let go of. Her steps dragged forward. With every step, her body made a faint sound, like old wood. When she passed by Jonki, her face became slightly visible through her hair. Her eyes were milky white, her lips blue, and her neck was bent at the wrong angle, as if someone had forcibly twisted it. Jonki's breath stopped. The doors opened. The woman got off the bus. The next moment, her body fell to the ground, lifeless, completely empty. Jonki closed her eyes. The doors closed. The bus started moving again. Now only 2 passengers were left on the bus, Jonki and the teenage boy sitting in front. The boy stood up. His movement was even stranger, like he had no control over his body. He slowly moved forward, but Jonki noticed that his feet were not properly touching the ground. As if he was not walking, as if he was being pulled. Jonki tried to scream, but no sound came out. The doors opened. The boy got off, fell. Silence. The bus started moving again. Now Jonki was completely alone. Her body was trembling. Tears were flowing uncontrollably from her eyes. She looked toward the driver. Now she was afraid of him. "Please," Jonki said in a trembling voice, "let me go. I made a mistake." The driver gave no reply. His hands were still fixed on the steering wheel. But Jonki noticed that his hands were completely dried up, as if blood had left them long ago. The bus was slowly entering a darker place. There were no road signs now, only fog, trees, and silence. Then Jonki noticed something else. Reflections in the bus windows. Her own face. But the reflection was moving slightly late. When she turned her head, the reflection turned a moment later. When she closed her eyes, the reflection closed them after a short delay. Her body turned cold. "I am alive," she said to herself. "I am alive." The bus stopped again. This time, there was no bus stop board, only an open path, and graves spread far and wide. Iron gates slowly opened. The bus went inside them. Jonki's scream got stuck in her throat. This was not a bus stop. This was a cemetery. The bus stopped inside the cemetery. The driver slowly turned his head and for the first time fully looked toward Jonki. His face was now clearly visible. That face was rotten. There was no skin in places. In some spots, dark goo was visible. His eyes were still open, but there was something else in them. "Get off," the driver said in a soft voice. Jonki's legs had stopped responding. This is not my home," she cried. The driver's lips moved slightly. Home has already been left behind. The doors opened. Cold, dead air filled the bus. And Jonki felt that now there was no path going back. Jonki's body had gone numb. The bus doors were open, and the cold, damp air of the cemetery hit her face. That air made breathing difficult, As if with every breath, something was being pulled from her chest. She turned back and looked inside the bus. The place where people had been sitting a while ago was now completely empty. The seat cushions looked old and torn, as if no one had sat on them for years. The lights had become even dimmer, and their flicker felt like a heartbeat, slow, useless, dying. The driver was still sitting in his seat. More of his face was now visible, and he looked even more rotten. As if time had forgotten him, and then forgotten to forget him. "I can't get off," Jonky cried. "This is not my place." The driver said only this, "Everyone says that." Dragging her legs, Jonky placed her first step outside the bus. The ground was wet, mud stuck under her shoes. When she fully stepped out of the bus, a strange weakness spread through her body, as if her weight had suddenly increased. The bus doors closed behind her. The sound of metal echoed through the cemetery. Jonky turned around. The bus was still standing there, but its lights were slowly dimming, as if it too was becoming part of this place. "Please," Jonky said, "take me back." The driver turned the steering wheel. The bus started moving. Its taillights dissolved into the fog, and then the bus disappeared as if it had never existed. Jonky was left alone. Her scream echoed far into the cemetery and came back to her. She started walking. Passing between the graves, her eyes fell on the names written on every stone. Some names were old, some new. Some graves had flowers withered, some were completely empty. Her head started spinning. With every step, strange images began to appear in her mind, like flashes. Road. Night. Bright light. She grabbed her head. "Stop it," she said. "Stop it." But the images kept getting faster, the sound of a horn, the screech of brakes. And then silence. Jonky stopped. Pain rose in her chest, deep and burning. She placed a hand on her chest and felt that her heartbeat was not working properly. She looked down. A faint redness was visible from under her jacket. Blood. Her eyes widened. This? How? She looked behind, at her footprints. With every step, faint bloodstains were left on the ground. Jonky's breathing became fast. Am I injured? Another memory rose in her mind, now clearer. The same city road. The same time. The same fog. A fast-moving car. Her standing in her place. And then, the collision. The sound of metal breaking was still echoing in her ears. "Am I dead?" she said in a trembling voice. The cemetery's air became stronger. The fog seemed to swirl around her, as if surrounding her. Jonky lifted her head and looked ahead. And then she saw it. A grave. New. The soil was still wet. Before going toward it, her heart had already broken. Because she knew, without reading the name, whose grave it was. Her feet moved forward on their own. Jonky's steps automatically moved toward that grave. With every step, her chest burned more, as if an old wound was now completely opening. The fog circled around her, sometimes coming close and touching her skin, sometimes pulling back, as if it too was waiting. The grave was completely new. The soil was still wet, as if it had been closed just moments ago. At the head of the grave was a simple stone, neither too clean nor too old. Jonky reached out her hand. Her fingers were trembling. "Don't read," her heart screamed. "Just stop here." But her eyes moved on their own toward the words written on the stone. Her name. Her breath completely stopped. The date written below pierced her eyes. Date of birth, the same as on her ID card. Date of death, tonight. "This is wrong," she said. But no sound came out of her throat. Her memories had fully returned. no longer in broken pieces, but like a clear, merciless truth. That road, that bus stop, that time, she had seen the car's headlights, very bright, very close. The driver had applied the brakes, but it was too late. The sound of impact, falling on the ground, pain, and then silence. People had gathered. Someone had said, "She's not breathing." Someone had said, "Call an ambulance." But ambulances never arrive on time. Jonki looked down. Her hands were now completely filled with blood. Blood was dripping onto the soil of the grave, and the soil was drinking it as if this blood already belonged to it. The pain in her chest had become unbearable. She fell to her knees. "I was going home," she cried. "I was just going home." The fog became thicker. From behind her came a faint sound of an engine. Jonki turned around. Far away, outside the cemetery, the bus was standing. Lights on. Doors closed. The driver was sitting in his seat. Exactly like the first time. The bus did not honk. The bus did not make a sound. It just stood there. Jonki understood. This bus comes only for those people who stop somewhere along the way, who do not reach home, who board the last ride without knowing that their journey had already ended. She looked at the grave again. Her name, her place, her truth. Her body was slowly becoming cold. Darkness began spreading before her eyes. She tried to take one last breath. And then, her body quietly fell beside the grave. The fog covered everything. The camera slowly moves closer. Jonki's name is clearly visible on the tombstone. Blood flows from her hand and falls onto the stone, and then spreads over every letter of the name. Blood slowly drips downward. In the background, the sound of the bus engine slowly fades, then complete silence. The screen slowly turns black.